Hi, and welcome to the Interconnections Network. I'm the host today, Monica Mathelier, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in to the Interconnections Network. Today, we have a very super special guest. We have parent, advocate, and provider, Esther Wilson. Welcome, Esther.
Thank you, Monica.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much.
The name of your agency?
Your Needs Resource Center.
Your Needs Resource Center.
Yes.
And the types of services you provide in Your Needs.
Advocacy for parents. I do IEP meetings with them, mediation, whatever resources that they need. I help them, get that together.
And just as a reference point, I just wanted to let them know how they can get in contact with you.
By email, yourneedscenter@aol.com.
Thank you, Esther.
You're welcome.
Today's topic is the Willowbrook experience. Basically, the agency is moving forward in trying to collect resources for people with disabilities. That's the primary goal. But in order to move forward, you have to know what happened in the past.
Well, I visited the state institutions for the mentally retarded, and I think particularly at Willowbrook that we have a situation that borders on a snake pit, and that the children live in filth, that many of our fellow citizens are suffering tremendously because lack of attention, lack of imagination, lack of adequate manpower. There's very little future for the children or for those who are in these institutions. Both need a tremendous overhauling. I'm not saying that those who are the attendants there or the ones that run the institution are at fault. I think all of us are at fault. And I think it's just long overdue that something be done about it.
Do you know much about the Willowbrook experience?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. It was a very sad time in history.
Yes.
Where people with disabilities were all put together in institutions and abused. And I'm very familiar with it because my oldest son is also disabled. He has autism. So I'm familiar what went on back then. And those are things we don't want to happen again.
Absolutely.
Yes.
During that time, they were considered state schools. Parents had nowhere to turn, no service provision in the communities, as well as no direction.
Yes, and it was very sad. It was very sad when Geraldo Rivera discovered what was going on.
I believe that was in 1972.
72, yes.
1972, when he did an expose on Willowbrook experience.
Yes.
It's been more than 6 years since Robert Kennedy walked out of one of the wards here at Willowbrook and told newsmen of the horror he'd seen inside. He pleaded then for an overhaul of a system that allowed retarded children to live in a snake pit. But that was way back in 1965, and somehow we'd all forgotten. I first heard of this big place with the pretty-sounding name because of a call I received from a member of the Willowbrook staff, a Dr. Michael Wilkins. The doctor told me he'd just been fired because he'd been urging parents with children in one of the buildings, building number 6, to organize so they could more effectively demand improved conditions for their children. The doctor invited me to see the conditions he was talking about, so unannounced and unexpected by the school administration, we toured building number 6. The doctor had warned me that it would be bad. It was horrible.
Yes.
He went in, he found that not only the clients were being mistreated, and the clients didn't have a lot of instruction and direction, but also the staff.
The staff, yes.
I felt equally sorry for the staff.
Yes, overworked.
Overworked, long hours.
Yes.
The doctor had warned me that it would be bad. It was horrible. There was one attendant for perhaps 50 severely and profoundly retarded children. Lying on the floor, naked and smeared with their own feces, they were making a pitiful sound, a kind of mournful wail that it's impossible for me to forget. This is what it looked like, this is what it sounded like, but how can I tell you about the way it smelled? It smelled of filth, it smelled of disease, and it smelled of death. We've just seen something that's probably the most horrible thing I've ever seen in my life. Is that typical of ward life?
Yes, there are 5,300 patients at Willowbrook, which is the largest institution for the mentally retarded in the world.
There were a lot of
Abuse,
death, very,
treated
very
like
terrible.
animals, yeah.
Treated like
In
animals,
chains and-
absolutely.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I discovered in looking at some of the information that was provided on YouTube and some of the documentaries, they talked about not only Geraldo's expose, but Kennedy
Yes.
in 1965 visited the state school. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes.
And he was well aware in 1965, and nothing happened.
And he had disabled members in his family.
Absolutely, the Kennedy family.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
nothing happened.
And I'm just making an assumption. I'm assuming that maybe they didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. So now, once Willowbrook closed, all of the clients were sent back home to their families or to facilities, smaller facilities. And that's when home community-based services were born.
Yes, which was very helpful in starting to have individual agencies and to really find out how to meet the individual needs of these, consumers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Does your son have any experience with home community-based services?
Yes, for over 20 years, thank God, because before that it was very hard to get help for him, but once very helpful to get a ComHab worker to work for him and meet his goals and his needs. And it has made a lot of changes in our lives by having someone that could be there for him,
Now, the thing I find that's shifting with home community-based services at this time is the inclusion. It's not just sending them to day programs. It's not just sending them to structured programs. It's now including them in the community and ensuring that they're a part of their community.
Yeah, and it has improved when now it's called a life plan.
A life plan.
Yeah, where everything is included and everyone that's around that individual that supports them could be included in that plan so they can do individualized things or group things in the community, whatever their wants and needs are. That my son has that, it wasn't that way in the beginning. You got the res hab and that was it. But now everything is built in.
Yes.
His camp services or whatever he needs, respite services, it's built in. And I've been just blessed because he has had the same ComHab worker now for about 18 years.
That happens to be a huge barrier in
Yes.
service provision when you have a lot of turnovers and changes in staff. So the consistency helps the clients and participants in continued service provision with someone who's very familiar with their case, with them, their goals.
And that is helpful because by having that consistency, I can go out in the community and help other people with my agency.
Absolutely.
And do things,
So what would you say is the one thing, I think you've shared off camera before, that your son is an artist?
Which was a surprise.
Yes.
I did not know that he likes to draw. And he volunteers at the library in Flushing. And his work has been on display through the agency he's with. And it's been on display. This is the second year
Wonderful.
that he does his artwork.
You are part of a program on Fridays where you DJ. You DJ. It's like tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it's an agency that runs a program on Saturdays, and twice a month we have a social night. So I've been with them for around 18 years, where we play music and have circle time and provide dinner and everything for the consumers, which two of my consumers happen to be Willowbrook.
Wow.
From Willowbrook, yes. And they've been with us for a long time. And they live together in the community in the foster system until their mom passed away, the foster mom, and they were placed into residences in the community. But it's very fun. They're different people, and one is employed in the that she goes to every day, and she's travel trained, and she'll tell me the stories about when she was in Willowbrook and what happened and why she was placed there and everything like that. And the other one also has an identical twin, and they're separate. One is lower functioning, but they talk about their experience, and they're happy to be in the community, doing
Yes,
things, coming to the
yes.
dance, going to the day programs, and it's really helpful. So I've been with them for a long time.
There are a lot of programs in the community. I've also been a provider for 20 years in this field.
Yes.
So the one thing I enjoy is like they have horseback riding therapy, they have
Yes.
swimming therapy.
Yes.
Those are some of the things that we're going to introduce on the show
Yes.
to give parents some kind of an opportunity. The insurances that they accept, and some programs that you may not necessarily know are accessible.
And that's why with my workshops, one of my workshops I always like to do is what's out there and how to get it.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of parents don't know the things that are out there, even without Medicaid, that they have access to, which is really important. So that's part of my resource center. Reach out to the parents so they can know parents' needs, but it's something that's available for them no matter what it is, for their child or their family member.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've seen the growth over the last 20 years.
Yes. I remember just trying to get help for our family and only getting 4 hours a week break with a very hyperactive child with autism. It was very difficult. And I've seen the change by me just going out there advocating, going to Albany, getting into the MR Council, different things that they had to get information, finding out that help is available and how I can help other parents going back to school, getting my degree in social work and everything. So all of that came in handy to where my son was able to evolve and grow and learn, and now he's doing excellent. He has his own cell phone, he's going to camp, he's working at the library, at the pantry, he's doing a lot of things in the community, which is amazing. Calls me on the cell phone, which he didn't speak till he was 7,
Wow.
So I'm just pleased with the progress and the agency that he's with. That's really helpful, yeah.
And are there any groups or you meet periodically with other parents who have worked
Yes.
with their children and have been through the system as well?
Yes. Support group in Brooklyn with parents, monthly or as needed, that we can have supports in each other. And we stay connected with other parents where we have, just me time. We go out and do whatever we can with each other.
Very nice.
Go out to eat or driving and things, just to have that support. Or spend that couple hours whilst your child is getting the respite or the ComHab services so you can breathe and take care of the rest of the family.
So if someone wanted to join, I know they have different councils and different organizations. I would refer someone to possibly OPWDD's website, some of the organizations that work with the parents.
Yes, services that OPWDD provides. Now in Brooklyn, My Time Inc. is very supportive for their services for the Me Time with the Parents with Lucina Clark. So she's in Brooklyn, but she does, any borrower that would come to her, she don't refuse them. So, that's the support that they have there, And YAI has one in Manhattan for parents also. And I also know in Queens, we have PS 177.
Okay.
With Susan Altabet at school. They have a support group for the parents there. So there's a lot of different supports. So parents have to know what they need. And if they can get help, feel free to email me and I will get in touch with them.
Now, something I wanted to talk about very briefly is the IEP review. For those that don't know what an IEP is, Ms. Wilson, an IEP is?
It's an individual education plan that any child with special needs in the Board of Ed needs to have to get the services. So it can take the child until they're age 21. And this plan is reviewed yearly. And every 3 years is a whole assessment, a new assessment. So I always tell the parents, do not go in by themselves. And everything you put in there, the goals for the child, these are the things that they're supposed to work on. And if you're not on top of it, sometimes it gets passed over. So I help my parents, I go with them to IEP meetings to make sure it's being done. And they get what is needed for the goal, make sure the child's in the right school. I read over their psychological and their social history, make sure everything is in place. Maybe the child needs additional services, maybe a device to help them with reading or anything that's available out there. So I read it, go with them, and make sure everything is in place.
Now the IEP is the governing body in the school within the Department of Education is the school-based support team.
The school-based support team.
That's correct. And that has a social worker,
A psychologist.
a psychologist,
Yes, and sometimes different counselors.
different counselors. And if your child is receiving services and has an IEP and you would like support during the IEP review, or you're not sure of what your rights are within the IEP review, Ms. Wilson does advocate
With the parents to direct them on the right thing, if, at the meeting, what's going on, make sure it's what they want, make sure what the child needs are, and to just guide you. Because a lot of time I meet parents that thought what they were getting would be what they needed, and when they read it after, it's not done properly.
Correct.
Yeah, but I've been doing it for such a long time, over 20 years, being in the Board of Ed, being a parent member at first, and then going back as a social worker in the Board of Ed, so to be able to guide the parents. So
and in addition to the goals, you also help with the guidance in the classroom because they have 12 to one-to-ones and integrated co-teaching.
Yes, depends on the need of the child.
Yes.
If the child is maybe has autism and severe 611 means 6 students, 1 teacher and a para, and if they're doing better, higher function, maybe that child needs a private school. Maybe they're higher functioning enough where they can be in a private school. Then I can help them obtain that goal with the Board of Ed. And if it's something that cannot be done through me and it's reached the level, then I can always refer them to attorneys that would help them get that process done.
Very nice. And the way to reach you?
Your Needs Center at AOL.com.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
One of the things I wanted to talk about was the birth of Interconnections Network. Esther and I have worked closely over the years. It's been
a lot of years.
A lot of years.
Yeah.
And what the goal was to bring all disabilities together. Normally in this field, we see only services for people with serious mental illness, only services for people who have MRDD, cerebral palsy, autism. So usually by disability or by whatever
grouping
that they're in, service provision would be geared to that particular diagnosis. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
And so what we wanted to do is across the board, bring all services, all resources, all information to all groups, because what I found as a provider over the last 20 years, there are quite a few people who are dually diagnosed.
Yes.
So usually if you're dually diagnosed, whatever the primary diagnosis, is this correct? That's the one they get services for.
Right.
That's the focus service.
Yes.
So it's usually whatever the secondary diagnosis is. Not only do they not focus on the service for that, everything is geared to the primary.
Yes.
And so if you have, let's say, for example, traumatic brain injury, and you also have a secondary diagnosis of some kind of a psychiatric diagnosis, schizophrenia, for example. All of the focus is on the traumatic brain injury.
Yes.
So you get all of the neurological services, you see all of the providers who are centered around the traumatic brain injury, if you have seizure disorder, and then you go see the psychiatrist.
Right.
Instead of working in conjunction with both services.
Put them together.
So that's the goal of Interconnections Network.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's fair to say.
That's something that always happens in this field.
Yeah.
And so that was the goal. And that was the vision for this resource channel. We want to allow different providers, different services to be introduced connect to the referral source, where the services are being offered, and the insurance that's being accepted for said services.
And also be able to locate the ones that don't have a waiting list for a year or 6 months.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of times when a parent or a guardian find out they need the services, it's some things that are needed immediately.
Correct.
Within a week or could be before that. So by providing all these resources, we're hoping to reach out to the agencies that don't have the long waiting list so that everyone could be served.
And my understanding is, if you have goals, they don't always necessarily revolve around the services that are being offered within the home community-based support.
Right.
Right? There might be a community support or a community resource. We want to make sure that they're connecting to, if you like swimming, if you like horseback riding, if you like piano, we want to have providers who have an understanding and they're able to work with someone with a disability, and have the patience and the training
and
to work, and the staff to work with someone who has a disability. Very important.
Yeah, because
Very important.
With the staff, it's such a turnaround of people don't understand the need for the disability and the population to have that staff. And maybe we can also reach out to people that maybe find out that they would love to work in this field.
Absolutely.
Find out that there's benefits to loving another human being with a disability.
Yes.
They no longer call them handicapped. They're very handicapable.
Yes,
There's a lot
I love that.
people can do. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So we have to just, do a lot more so that people can be successful when they're looking for the services.
And the thing that I want, not just for the caregivers, but this resource channel is also for service providers.
Yes.
Service provider professionals in the field.
Yes.
So that they know a place they can always look to or support, or the professionals who want professional development.
Yes, yes.
Training outside of the agency, certifications outside of your agency that make you a more credible and knowledgeable provider.
Yes, which is very helpful.
Very, very.
Makes the caretakers more comfortable, because a lot of times the services have moved to where they reach out directly to the parents now. There's a lot of paperwork and parents feel like they're being neglected.
Yes.
So we want to bring it back where the access to the care coordinators and the service providers out there is with the parents, the face-to-face, to let them know what's out there, how to get it, which is very important.
The one thing I most definitely, the heightened service right now is self-direction.
Yes.
Everyone's talking about self-direction.
Yes.
So we're looking forward to having some providers come on and help the parents through the process. Answer their questions.
Yeah, because it's difficult in some places. Some places it runs very smoothly, where parents get their self-direction and they're happy. So it still has a lot of work to be done in the New York City area with the parents that I encountered. The age of the child makes a difference, the packages, a whole lot of different things that the parents need education about, so they can make educate themselves and make a good choice.
One of the other things I wanted to focus on, I wanted to work with service providers.
Yes.
Not just in professional development, but supports, because of the turnovers in staffing. We want them to stay in these agencies. We want them to continue to service our clients and participants in the programs. But they need help too.
They need supports,
They need supports. There are programs out there to help with student loans. There are programs out there to help. I believe there was some different initiatives in helping you find housing for yourselves as providers.
In the field,
so that's some of the things that we're going to talk about here to help them, help guide them.
Yes, that's good, so that they could stay in the field and service our, parents. Yeah.
I just had a discussion today. Corporate America is not for everyone. It's not. 20 years of service. More than 20 years as a parent advocate and service provider. corporate America is not for everyone. And I think that this is a field you can grow in,
Yes.
and you can provide not just a human service as a person. You're working with a person in something.
Yeah, it feels good to give back.
Feels good to give back. That's the best term.
Yes.
It feels good to give back.
Yes.
So I just wanted to say thank you. I'm so humbled just to have you here. I'm humbled by that.
With you. Thank you.
In closing, there were a couple of things I wanted to share. We do have a Facebook page, the Interconnections Network on Facebook. Please come join our group, share ideas, show topics, and resources at your leisure. It's an open group for caregivers and service providers. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to end with one thing, a quote.
Okay.
And I thought it was fitting for both of us.
Okay.
It's a quote from Booker T. Washington. I'm going to read it because I can't remember word for word.
Okay.
Sorry. Everyone's life is measured by the power that individual has to make the world better. That is all life is.
Yes.
And that's by Booker T. Washington. Thank you for joining us. It was an honor and a privilege to serve you and continue to serve you as a service provider and host of this show. You were watching the Interconnections Network. Good night.